Hello, my Forge faithful. 3 keys to the match presented by Volkswagen. This is our first 3 keys as part of this Forge audio network that leads into a playoff match. It's a big one. Forge FC, Cavalry FC, rivalry renewed. The first tie of the 2-leg semi-final happening in Foothills County, Alberta. Cavalry, the home side. Forge looking for a positive result. A win would be great. A draw would be okay, because the return leg is back at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton next Sunday. And we'll talk about that in a second. But first, focus on Saturday, 4 p.m. kickoff in Calgary. Now, if you missed it, make sure you check out our match day preview, a in-depth preview. We heard from head coach and technical director for Forge FC, Bobby Smyrniotis, and we heard from Forge defender Alexander Achinioti-Jönsson, defender/midfielder, and we heard from Alex Gange-Ruzik from CPL.ca, who did an incredible job breaking down this matchup and getting into the nitty-gritty of the two sides, some of their strengths, weaknesses. So make sure you go and get that in-depth match day preview, available now on the Forge Audio Network, or however you get your Forge content, whether you listen to it, whether you watch it, whether you do both. It is available now via podcast on YouTube. And follow Forge on social media, because our content gets pushed out there as well. All right, let's get into it. Key number 1 for Forge FC in the first round of this 2-round tie between Forge and Cavalry. Let Henry work. Henry, being Tristan Henry, Forge goalkeeper, let him work. What do I mean by that? The one stat that jumped out at me, these are 2 very evenly matched clubs, arguably the top 2 clubs in the Canadian Premier League. Standings might tell a different story. It's a 2 and a 3 seed, but when you get down into the weeds here and into the numbers, these are 2 of the, let's just say, the 2 of the most exciting squads to watch. Both teams love to possess the ball. They love the attack. And when they meet, it is always a physical battle. Now, but one stat that stood out to me the most: Cavalry will shoot from almost anywhere. Forge, a little more technical in their attack. They like to work the ball into the box. They like to use all their players. A lot of links, a lot of passing, a lot of overlaps, a lot of runs. It's a little more straight at the keeper. Cavalry, though, will take shots from distance. In fact, they lead the league in goals scored from outside that 12-yard box. And they also it's a lot of attempts, too. But if you're Forge, and we're going to actually hear from Bobby Smyrniotis in a second, because I asked him about this. If you're Forge and a club wants to fire away from 20 yards out, great. Do that all game. What team wouldn't want that? Take your attempts. Forge believe firmly, and it's difficult to difficult to argue, that Tristan Henry is the best goalkeeper in the Canadian Premier League. No, he wasn't nominated for the top goalkeeper award, despite leading the league in every major stat, or at least tied for the lead in wins, clean sheets, saves, whatever, goals against. But I know, but Forge is so confident in their goalkeeper, and why wouldn't you be? And the luxury of having a guy like Tristan Henry, who is a quality goalkeeper, is also probably the most aggressive goalkeeper in the Canadian Premier League, is that you trust him to make those saves from 20 yards out. That's if the opponent can hit the target from that far out. I mean, if in other words, if you are going to force a club to beat you from that distance regularly, your chances are very good in the end. And the benefit you're not allowing them to shoot, but what you're doing is you're not panicking when you see a player stepping in and ready to take that shot. You're confident in your positioning, you're confident in your shape and your structure and your goalkeeper, that you're okay. You're going to be okay. You don't need to be overly aggressive on those attempts. You don't need to jump out, because you don't want to get beat either. You don't want to let guys behind. You don't want to commit too much and give Cavalry room behind you and give them an even higher quality scoring chance. So if you're Forge, let Henry work. Let him see the ball. Let him make those saves from distance. Cavalry wants to take them. That's fine. You're going to let them, because those are very low quality chances. Now, here is head coach, technical director Bobby Smyrniotis talking about playing against the club that likes to shoot from everywhere.
No, I think there's a few people on this call here who like to follow a lot of stats. So if teams want to shoot from 18 to 25 meters, no problem. We know statistically we can say whatever we want about it, but where the goals come from and all that. But they're a team that's scored from distance in the season. They take a lot more shots from there, so it's obviously going to give them a good opportunity for it. But it's not something that's playing in our mind.
I mean, Bobby's not worried, and he's confident in his keeper. Now, speaking of his keeper, he talked about Henry. And again, he didn't get into the weeds about whether he should be nominated for awards or not. But Forge knows what they have.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure how goalkeepers or players are selected, so I don't know the process. But when you look at it, he's been absolutely top. Statistically, he's at the top of the league in all areas, and he's done it. Playing with a new back line, and a back line that's shuffled, I think, on 18 different occasions this year. And that's testament to him, because he's been rock solid back there for 27 of the 28 games this year. He's played a lot of games. So, I've talked about it in the past. For me, he's undoubtedly the top goalkeeper in this league. He's played massive matches, not only in this league, but across all competitions. So it's not a question for me. It's a question for those who make those types of decisions.
All right, so that's key number one for Forge FC. Let Henry work. Don't panic on those long shots. Let him have them. Trust your keeper. Key number two for Forge FC. Patience in the prairies. Forge wants to possess the ball. They want to be on the front foot. They want to attack. However, this is the only time this season where Forge will be happy to leave Calgary with a draw, because you're playing two legs. You're looking for the combined score over those two matches. If you can just avoid giving up a goal at all and finishing in a scoreless draw, I don't know how the fans will feel about it, but that's a win for Forge FC. Anything but a loss is a win for Forge FC in Calgary, because then they return home, and all of a sudden now you just essentially have to win a match at home. And Forge is very comfortable in that position. So patience. You don't need to take a lot of chances. You don't need to risk some turnovers. Stay true to your identity. Stay on the front foot. You want to attack. Of course you do. No one's expecting Forge to sit back, because that is absolutely not going to happen here. And they're not going to play for a tie either. But you can be a little more patient based on the situation. So patience in the prairies, key number two for Forge FC in the first leg of their semifinal tie against Cavalry. Key number three for Forge FC, head in the game. Last time these two clubs played, we had 14 total cards, and the match was in Hamilton. A lot of you saw it. A lot of you were there. It was a physical match between these two clubs, and it got very heated. And Cavalry has guys that can do that to you. I'm not even going to mention any names, but they have, especially one guy, who likes to get under your skin and ruffle some feathers and goat you into making some bad decisions and taking some penalties. And regardless, if you're Forge, you have another match to go and a potential championship if you get there. There's no need to risk bookings, fouls, set pieces. Cavalry also very good with set pieces. You want to keep your head in the game. Focus on the game, on you're coming in with a game plan. It's all you need to focus on. Try not to let Cavalry get under your skin, and not just Cavalry, because this is a very difficult stadium to play in Foothills County in Calgary. So the fans can get under you. The players can get under you. It can be very frustrating, especially if things aren't going your way, especially early. You can't get frustrated. You have to keep your head in the game and look ahead to not just finishing this match with a positive result, but also the next one. Because this isn't a one-game elimination. There's still plenty to play for after this one. So head in the game, stay focused, stay poised, and Forge will be in a really good spot. And if you're Cavalry and you're not able to get Forge off their game, I mean, that's frustrating. If you're going in with a game plan to ruffle some feathers and go Forge into some making some bad decisions and it's not working out, I mean, that's frustrating. So let Cavalry play that way. Calls aren't always going to go your way either. That's another component, is just try not to get too heated, try to stay level-headed as much as possible, and look for a positive result in Foothills County. Those are your 3 keys to the match. Let Henry work. Patience in the prairies. Head in the game. If you've missed any of it this week, you're going to want to catch up on the Forge Audio Network Match Day Preview, where we go in depth, teeing up this matchup between Forge and Cavalry out west, and also focus on Forge this week. We had a overall playoff preview, not just with Forge and Cavalry, but also the Ottawa Pacific matchup. So you're going to want to catch up with that. We talked to David Chouanier this week. We talked to Wubens Pacius this week. Lots to get caught up on, so make sure you check that out. Forge Audio Network. However, wherever you get your Forge content, whether it's on social media, whether it's via podcast, whether it's on YouTube, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and make sure you are fully up to date. Now, remember, again, we can look ahead. The team can't. They have to focus, so we'll look ahead for them. Here is how the scenarios are going to play out here. If Forge FC get past Cavalry and Pacific beat Ottawa in their matchup, Forge Pacific would meet in the final at Tim Hortons Field. Forge fans, I know how badly you want Pacific again in a final when it's not December and Forge hadn't just been traveling because of CONCACAF play a couple days prior. So that is what we're looking at here. And if that happens, by the way, Forge FC would host the final. If Forge and Pacific get through their rounds, Forge would host the final on October 29th. That is a Saturday, and the kickoff time would be 4 o'clock at Tim Hortons Field. But before you can buy tickets to the final, you have to buy tickets. We don't have to, but I encourage you to do so. The semi-final second leg at Tim Hortons Field, it is next Sunday. That's October 23rd, and the kickoff time for that matchup will be 5 o'clock. Tickets available now, forgefc.ca/tickets. That's 3 keys to the match. I'm Anthony Urciuoli. Enjoy the show. It's going to be great.
Forge FC is ready, and now you are too. This has been 3 Keys to the Match on the Forge Audio Network. Keep up to date on your Forge FC by subscribing to the Forge Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.